For this example, we need to find each function value. We're going to be using function notation. We have our function up here at the top, f of x is equal to x squared plus 3x. They want us to calculate f of -5. So we're going to take this -5 and we're going to plug that in for the x's in the problem. When you do your substitution, you should include parentheses when you do that. So everywhere where there's an x here, everywhere we're going to substitute in, we want to have parentheses replacing that x. So we have x squared here, so we're going to want parentheses squared. And we have plus 3x, so we're going to want plus 3 parentheses. And then what we're substituting in is this -5. For your final answer, you want to go through and simplify this, evaluate this so that we don't have any parentheses left, and combine all of our like terms. In this case, we just have all numbers, so we should have just a single number for our final answer. -5 in parentheses squared is 25. 3 times -5 is -15, and 25 minus 15 is 10. So that's our final answer for that one. For letter B, we are going to calculate f of 2a. Sometimes they want us to evaluate things that have variables in them. So again, we're going to take 2a, and we're going to plug that in for all of the x's, and we want parentheses when we do that. So just like in the last problem, we're going to want parentheses squared plus 3 times parentheses. And then in the place of those parentheses for this one, we're going to do a 2a. We have a 2a in parentheses squared. The base of the exponent is the parentheses. So what we really have there is a 2a times another 2a. These are just monomials. We just have one term in each one of those sets of parentheses, so we can just multiply them together. 2 times 2 is 4, and a times a does give us an a squared. So a 4a squared is what we would end up with after we square this 2a in parentheses, and then using the distributive property, just multiplying these together. 3 times 2a gives us 6a. These are not like terms, so we cannot simplify them anymore. Again, we want to find the function value. When we do that, we are going to be getting rid of the parentheses and combining any like terms when we finish that problem up. For letter C, we're going to take a look at calculating f of x plus 1. So again, we're going to want to take this x plus 1 and replace all of the x's with that x plus 1. We should have parentheses squared plus 3 times parentheses for all of these, and then each time we're plugging in a different value. In this case, we're plugging in an x plus 1. We want to get rid of those parentheses and combine our like terms. I have an x plus 1 squared here, which is an x plus 1 times another x plus 1. This is a binomial times a binomial. So for me to evaluate this, for me to calculate this, I do need to FOIL this out. So x times x gives me x squared. X times 1 gives me a 1x. 1 times x gives me x, and 1 times 1 is 1. So in terms of evaluating this and calculating, we do have to remember that this is a binomial times a binomial, so we will get those 4 terms when we FOIL that out. I'm just going to copy those up here. So that's what we get from our FOIL, and then using the distributive property again, we'll take the 3 and distribute that into both terms. 3 times x is 3x, and 3 times 1 is 3. To come up with our final answer, we just need to combine like terms. We'll have an x squared, and then x plus 3x is 5x, and then 1 plus 3 is 4. Your final answer shouldn't have any parentheses in it when we simplify that. You could go through and factor this, but that would be an extra step. And to come up with our final answer, we just need to have this written without parentheses. Standard form works out best. Remember the difference between these two problems? Here we had a monomial squared, so we could just basically square each one of those values and get a 4a squared. But here we had a binomial squared. We can't just square the x and square the 1. We do have an x squared and a 1 in our answer, but because it's a binomial, we have to FOIL, and if you just square each of those values, you miss the O and the I parts of FOIL. That's a very common mistake.